Hello, fellow citizens! I am your host, Jess, and this is your reminder that the weight of the entire world is not on your shoulders, and you can make a difference. This podcast is about what it means to be a citizen and neighbor where you live. For me, that's Philadelphia. There are lots of ways to be a citizen and a neighbor, and I want to cover all of them in this podcast, starting with the belief that citizens should be informed. Because of our current nationwide agenda, I'm kicking off the podcast by examining the candidates and roles on the 2020 general election ballot. Today, I'm joined by somebody who is like the key link to my whole life in Philly, because this guy is just so wild that he came up to me at a concert and was like, "Take my picture." And then I married his friend. And so that's how we all know each other. It's all thanks to Paul. Thank you, Paul, for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Jess.
So,
yeah, I was that crazy guy that came up, take my picture.
yeah. I met you in Philly. You're still in Philly. How long have you been in Philly, and where all have you lived, Paul?
I've probably been on and off in Philly since I've been 17, just like coming down here for specifically like skating, during my like late high school years, and then going to Drexel, living at Drexel, for a few years. Then I kind of moved to South Philly, I guess in my mid 20s, and I've pretty much been here, at this place for 4 years, another place for 2 years. So probably like 6 years altogether. 2013-ish, I think I moved back down here.
Sweet.
So yeah, I've been all around Philly, since I was kind of like a teenager.
Have you seen a lot change in Philly? I know they're always building stuff.
I mean, yeah, definitely. A lot has changed, specifically since like, way back in the day.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it as phases, because like through like a lens of like skateboarding, like stuff is constantly changing, and you like recognize that. Like, I mean, Love Park was mowed down in 2016, but like you can go back like 15 years, and there's just stuff that doesn't exist anymore. Like the Piazza in Northern Liberties in the early 2000s used to actually be like a place to skate. It was just like pretty much like an abandoned like nothing. So
wow.
When you see like the city change, it's like crazy. And being all around the city, like specifically in all the different neighborhoods, like trying to find places to go to skateboard, like it's just you just see it change overnight in certain ways. Like I would never considered living in Point Breeze like 10 years ago. I would have never living in Graduate Hospital, like, same deal, because when I came down here as a kid, like these were places like you didn't go to or, hang out around, like just like how like different places in South Philadelphia were kind of like that too. I mean, this is South Philly, but just like not like down by the stadiums.
Yeah, it's always changing. I've only been here for 6 years, and I started out in University City, and it's so different now if I ever go back. But I'm not going around to a lot of places right now because we're in a pandemic. So
yeah, that pandemic thing going on, like the COVID-19.
So how are you spending your time these days, Paul?
Wonderful federal response. I mean, it's not, I gotta say, for me personally, it's not like the worst, like it's been like the worst thing ever. Obviously like the industry that I work in, like sports and entertainment, like we're not having events. We're not having games with fans. We're not having concerts. Like it's not good in that sense at all. And eventually, I mean, like we're going to have to start doing stuff, or places are going to have to close. And that is a horrible thing to like see, because way before the pandemic, like the like entertainment industry was like raging along, like at a like rapid pace. I think I worked more like concerts and games than I'd ever worked in the last like 2 years before coronavirus than like at any time like the previous like, few years that I've been working in the industry. Call it the industry, but like I work in IT. Like I'm not like like an actor or anything. So and that's the like it's for me going like off of the IT thing. Like we always have to keep supporting like the infrastructure and specifically the arena. So it's not like we like in IT haven't been working. It's just we don't have live events going on. So it's kind of been catching up on things. Gonna say like gotten pretty good at golf again over the last during the pandemic because of that was kind of the only thing that you could do, and it was nice that I played it when I was a kid, so I was kind of already all right at it. But you're just that's great because you're outside. You can stay socially distanced. Like, you don't really get close to any of the people that you're playing with. And I mean, I guess the scientists have been saying that like everything's better to be outside than inside. And we kind of know that like with some of the outdoor happy hours we've done like on the neighborhood block.
Yeah, you have a fun block. So I am really glad that you were okay with doing this because I know some people were really hesitant. But you already cast your ballot, which is really awesome. So how long have you been voting?
I have been voting, I voted when I was 18 in the first election that I was eligible. I think that was, I'm trying to think now. I forget if I think that was George W. versus
Al. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the whole recount in Florida thing. And then Obama in 2008, and then we skipped the last two.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so but we're back with a vengeance now, and
nice.
Because things have obviously gone not the right way.
Right.
In the few years.
So speaking of that, go ahead. Go ahead.
I said I'll just leave it at that. But
oh, okay. So would you say that you're informed on a local level?
I mean to a certain point, yeah. Like I would probably say that I pay attention more to like what's going on locally in the community and like I guess politically than say on a national level. And like I know everyone loves to follow like national politics and all that stuff, but to me it's like who are you reading about like on your day-to-day in like Philadelphia? Like a guy like Larry Krasner, the new DA of Philadelphia. Like I like to read about that guy because I like what he's trying to do with like policing and, justice in the city. A guy like Kenyatta Johnson, who's like the guy in our district, the guy who runs the district in Point Breeze. It's like, well, like he's indicted on like, like federal charges from like, I think the FBI. So it's like, just checking in on that and like, what's our boy John McNesby from the FOP Lodge number 5 saying that's like, human toad, like, again, like, so yeah, like, I mean, I try and stay informed, especially like in Philadelphia, like politics, because it's, when you live in the city, you have to kind of like buy into like living in the city a little bit. So you need to know about that stuff. I mean, Kenny's not a perfect guy either. Like we can go back to like, John Street or like, what's his face, Mayor Nutter. Like, I mean, no one in the skateboarding community likes Nutter because he's the guy that wrote the ban for skateboarding in Love Park. Like, you know, so, you know, like when you have like a interest like that, like in Philadelphia, like that's, for me at least, when I was like really like paid attention to like what the city council and people were doing, because, you know, it's like we wanted to skate there.
Yeah, I think you do sound informed, Paul, and that totally makes sense of like why you'd be keeping track of who, because like that's your livelihood, like that's your social life, and so that really affects the skating world. I think that's awesome. I like all those names that you threw out. So for today, how much time would you say you put into research for today, or like the ballot in general?
Yeah, you're probably gonna be disappointed in this question, but like probably like a 0.
Oh
no! So are we talking about the general election or?
Yeah. Why did you do the primary or?
Nah, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't either.
As an independent, so I wouldn't do the primary in Pennsylvania.
I mean, but at the same time,
they should change that, by the way.
I know, yeah, that's been a big thing. I've talked with a lot of other guests. It's just hard to like make that decision of that title because it means a lot to a lot of people. But no, I think like even though you're saying you didn't put any time into the ballot, like you just threw out all these names of like you're keeping informed. So I think you're good.
Well, yeah, and that's what it is for people. Sometimes it's like your link to it is personal. So when you go like for me, if you know me outside of like this podcast, like, hey, like I like to skateboard and play golf. Like if people like started shutting down courses, like golf courses, I'd be like, what the hell's going on here? Like they closed like FDR, like the golf course at FDR Park, and they want to like turn it into a nature trail. But like I definitely could see some people scheming on some real estate there. Like, I mean, but like, so back to the topic of like you're kind of informed on what like means much to you. Now, like does like someone like Joe Biden mean a lot to me? Like, I mean, I kind of need the guy to beat Trump, and that's like, you know, I've figured a lot of people's like thinking this time around, even though like I have looked at some of his policies and it's like it's not too bad. Like, I mean, he's kind of taken a couple progressive ideas, and then he's kind of taken some like more like, I guess, middle of the road moderate ideas, and it's like blended nicely together. Like, are we gonna like, you know, go like kill the bourgeoisie on the steps of like City Hall? Probably not. Like, but like it's a good start, because where we were heading was a shitstorm of like Christian nationalism and fascism, and you know, boo.
Did you vote on the whole ballot though? Like you didn't just vote for president and vice president?
Yeah, I mean, I voted on the whole ballot.
Okay.
I knew a little bit about Torcella. A little bit about Torcella. I knew a little bit about Jordan Harris. Get a lot of phone calls from Jordan Harris because it's
really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, like it's like the automated ones. Like, hey,
yeah,
like,
but he's keeping in touch.
I'm having a town hall. Yeah, no, he's definitely engaged in the community, and I'm pretty sure I've met him at events once or twice.
And for our listeners, that's your district representative in, is that General Assembly, like for the state? I don't think it's for Congress.
I think it's like state representative.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's state.
Because when he calls, he's always like, "This is Jordan Harris, your state representative in Pennsylvania."
Awesome.
You know, something like that. So I mean, like, I'm 35 and I'm pretty liberal. Like, so I'm not. I'm definitely not like conservative Christian. So I'm probably not gonna like really mesh with any like red candidates.
Right. Once you hear that label on them, you're like, probably not.
Yeah, it's just I just think like if we're gonna be a progressive country and move towards the future of America, we have to kind of stop all this bullshit. Like with like kind of telling people like what to do. And that's how I kind of see like a lot of those conservative representatives, like, well, you can't do this, you can't raise our taxes, like, that type of deal. And just, I mean, personally, it just doesn't sit well. It just doesn't even hit. Like, it just looks like shit, to put it bluntly.
I hear you. Well, I think that our listeners have an idea of your personality and your stand. So I'm going to read question 3 on the ballot. That's what you actually like volunteered to talk about this particular question. So
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm also going to read like the summary that's involved with this question, and then we're going to hear Paul's response. So question 3 reads, shall the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to provide for the creation of a Citizens Police Oversight Commission and to authorize City Council to determine the composition, powers, and duties of the commission? The summary says, the city currently has an oversight body called the Police Advisory Commission created by the mayor, which the mayor could eliminate. With this charter change, the Citizens Police Oversight Commission would be a permanent part of city government. City Council would determine how members are selected for the Oversight Committee and would establish the Commission's specific powers, consistent with its mission, which could be substantially broader than the advisory role of the Police Advisory Commission. The Commission's mission would be to, and this is 4 bullet points, evaluate and work to improve police officer conduct, including by improving investigations of alleged misconduct, make clearer the officer disciplinary process and the process for submitting and considering citizen complaints of police misconduct, help hold the police department accountable for officers' actions, and improve communication between the police department and the community. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Well, my first thought about this is that this is a fantastic idea, because, and I kind of wrote this in the notes, like a little farther down, that if you look at it, the police themselves, and you can see how that's a little bit of a conflict of interest here. Like, there needs to be some sort of third-party oversight, like this Citizens, Police Oversight Commission, because they're not cops. Like, they don't have a vested interest to protect their, fraternal brothers, or, however you want to put it. So, I mean, like the first bullet point, improve police officer conduct. I mean, it's no secret here that, like, we've seen a lot of wild shit the last few months with police misconduct, and people kind of freaked out about it. And it's like, well, this has been going on way longer before that. Like, I have visually seen kids get tackled by bike cops, like, for the last 10 years. And nothing really happens about it. They get desk duty for a month. Like, they sit there and fill out paperwork. Like, it's probably pretty cool for them, actually. And then, they're back on the streets to, what I said earlier, terrorize. So it's a resounding yes that we need the citizenry to get involved with, like, essentially like holding the police accountable. So, I mean, if we go down the other citizens' complaints, like, that's hilarious that should even be on there, because, like, if you go to your local precinct and you want to, like, make a complaint against an officer or something like that, they look at you like you're a crazy person, probably. And they sit there and they'll fill out the report and they'll, like, be like, oh, we'll totally look into it. And they'll be like, boom, right in the trash can. Like, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be, like, over the top here about it, but like I don't know if regular, like, people, like, have these type of dealings with the police, but through a skateboarding lens, they've never done anything helpful to us. And, like, I can put down the board and like just walk around and be a normal person. And like, you know, there's millions of people in this goddamn country that like have to like deal with like terrorization from the police, like because of their skin color, and you know, they have to deal with that all the time. And that's like, so if you be empathetic about it, like obviously this would be a great start to like probably cleaning up some of the dirty underbelly of specifically the Philadelphia police. Because let's be honest here, these guys since the Rizzo days have not been nice to the community. Like certain people in the community, oh yeah, like, but you know, let's just say west of Broad Street, not so much.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I do.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
So like you put in some stuff in here, and we're referring to some of the notes that we put in here, like when you know, New Orleans and how they've been running like a similar program to what's being proposed by people in Philadelphia, and it's actually working. Imagine that. Imagine that if you start holding the cops accountable for like, you know, doing something bad, that like they'll, you know, start acting right. Like think about it, Jess. Like if I was like to go to work, like in IT, and I started like sending out all the email addresses of like everyone in the company, I'd probably get like fired for that, right?
I hope.
that wouldn't be like good for my job. So like someone would bring me in there and be like, this isn't good, and like you're gone. Like I don't see that happening with the cops. And you know, more in the notes, like I guess the Police Advisory Commission had 10 staffers and now they have 70. So like there's not even like, so like that's 3 less people to like even look into like these alleged misconducts. So we have to obviously get this in place, and I'm not even sure how effective it'll be at the start, but if there's a group of citizens from Philadelphia, from all around Philadelphia, and they all look at this with like just like a, you know, third party, like unapologetic, like unbiased lens, I think it will start cleaning up some of the shenanigans that the police get away with. I mean, here's a great one. Remember all those South Philly narcotics officers that pretty much were doctoring all of this? They weren't even doing like super bad stuff, but like they were like doctoring warrants and all this to like get search warrants like in front of judges. And half of these cases, if you look into it in Philadelphia, have been thrown out in the last few years because obviously like all these people are getting arrested on false information, or like, you know, and the cops will sit there and be like, oh, like they got us on some paperwork, like, you know, dun like Law and Order like episode. But I mean, they're pretty much messing up people's lives so that they can get their numbers up. Like that's another thing that needs to go away. Like you ever hear about how they have numbers? Like, you know, gotta get your tickets up. Like, you know, gotta like it's the end of the month, gotta like get some revenue up for the city, like write some tickets. You know, that's where all the little kids that can't run away with their skateboards come.
Oh my God.
Oh man, sorry.
No, you're good. You're very passionate.
Because their parents will pay those tickets. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's different for sure. So are you cool if I give some history on this?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. So in Philadelphia in 1958, the mayor at the time, Richardson Dilworth, did form the first Citizen Oversight Committee for the Philadelphia Police Department. And this is all from a billypenn.com article, which I'll have in the episode description. The early office was tasked with independently receiving and investigating complaints, which is what they're doing now. But there was a lawsuit brought by the Fraternal Order of Police in 1967 that ultimately disbanded this board, which seems to always be what's standing in the way even today. And then in 1994 was when the Police Advisory Board was created by then Mayor Ed Rendell. So it was a long time without any oversight. But like you said, this is an oversight committee has been happening in several cities. We do have the Police Advisory Board right now. We've had it since 1994. The issue is that not enough people know about it. It doesn't get enough funding, and it is vastly understaffed. So Philadelphia's Police Advisory Commission does currently have 7 staffers. They used to have 10, but that was recently slashed. They cut $125,000 from the PAC funding, which is about 18% of its budget. And so now they're down to 7 staffers to oversee over 6,500 officers. And the Fraternal Order of Police has historically opposed efforts to strengthen police oversight that are not department-led. And so the big issue is funding. If we could get more funding, then we could get more people and more resources. The PAC, the Police Advisory Commission, referred to as PAC, they have been active all this time. They do get the complaints from people that know about this resource. I looked at their website. They have been having town hall meetings on Zoom since August or July. Unfortunately, the website doesn't have like a lot of data. It's almost like I don't really understand why. It's like they don't keep their records very well, or like they don't give enough thought to the website, which is weird because community outreach is supposed to be a big proponent of their group. But they did have a Zoom meeting just last Monday, which I'm really upset that I only found out today about it.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, but I have the link for the next one. I'm putting that in the episode description. It's not till like mid-November, so a law is going to be like in that meeting because this question will have been voted on. They might like hint at if these 7 staffers are going to be part of this rebranded oversight commission. Unfortunately, the current executive director, Hans Menos, he is leaving. He's going on to a different organization that has to do with policing. So right now, the budget is $540,000 to oversee the Philadelphia Police Department, whose budget is $720 million in resources. So Hans Menos, he's really recommending that if and when CPOC is created, that they ask for at least 1% of the police department's budget, to take that from the police department and give that to them. Which would be
a quick $7 million.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would make a huge difference, and hopefully, like that would result in a larger team. Because it does.
Hey, everybody! This is called defunding the police.
Yes. Like let's reallocate funds.
1%.
1%. And that's on par with what other cities do. So in New York City, they get 0.65% of the New York Police Department's budget. And Chicago gets 1% from their police department. Like I said, this is like the epicenter, like you said, Paul, is in New Orleans. The representative from the New Orleans district was on the Zoom call on Monday. She supports this 100%. She's like, I think it's great that you're asking for at least 1%. But, try to push for 2%. Just like ask for as much as you can get, and let's get those resources. So PAC is a thing right now. They're not making the biggest strides, but a lot of it is just due to the limited budget, which means they have a very small team. They have very limited resources. They are getting pushback from the police department to provide all the necessary files. And then when they do present the options of discipline, those are usually turned over, unfortunately, with help from the FOP. So it's a lot of confrontation, but if this gets passed on the bill, Hopefully, if not remain the same, it'll get better. So I don't see any reason to vote no on this question.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, we should defund the FOP too.
I don't know what,
While we're
but
at it.
I don't know like what that money, where that money comes from. I'm not sure. But no, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to investigate there. So, yeah, so check out the website, and maybe like once this is passed, we'll get like a whole new website and see what happens. They do have opinions of the commission listed on the website, which means that once a complaint goes into a hearing and then the hearing is concluded, they put all that information on the website. Right now, they only have 13 up there, which is not like the strangest thing, because not all complaints result in a hearing. Some of them go into mediation. Some of them just aren't deemed very they're not like truthful, and so it just kind of like stops once they get it. It could just be that a citizen just filed a complaint and then didn't want to follow through. But I started reading some of them, and boy, they are stories. Like, there's a lot of information. If you're like weak of heart, maybe don't check them out. But it's also like you gotta know what's going on in the world, and some of those date back to like 1998, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, the span of information on the website is just so scattered, and I don't get that. So I hope it's just because of like the funds and not like that the people in the group don't know how to work a computer.
I mean, it's probably the funding. Like,
Yeah.
the more you talk about this organization, it just kind of seems like a little bit of PR spin that, yeah, we're looking into this stuff. Like, wink, wink. Like,
They can only do so much if they're not given the proper stuff. Yeah.
I mean, what was it? $500,000 their budget? Like, come on.
Right.
I mean, you had the numbers in the notes. Like, it's like there's like 6,500 officers or something like that in Philadelphia. Like,
yeah. Which also, like, some of those officers don't live in the city. Apparently, after you serve for 5 years, you don't have to live in the city. And so a good chunk of them, at least 12%, don't live in Philadelphia.
So we're not even getting any of they're spending their tax revenue in other communities outside of.
That's a really good point. Yeah, so a lot has to change. One of the reasons this is on is because of like the protests happening. So there's a big surge from the public that something has to be done. The most shocking thing to me was that PAC is even a thing. I'm like, how did I didn't know that this is a thing. I think it is always separate from the police department. Like, you'll never have to go into a police department to file a complaint or to contact PAC. They might have to, if they are going to get more funding, then they'll probably move their current location. Unfortunately, I don't remember where their current location is right now. They try to stay in Center City to be accessible. But if they can get, like, I think they really picked their location based on, like, how little of a space can we get, because we don't have that much money, so that we can just like barely fit our staff in here, which is so sad. So I'm hoping for the best.
They're kind of doing a job that people wouldn't really want to do, and it's commendable. So you gotta look at it like that. Like, at least they're trying.
Yeah, I think it does border on like a public servant job.
Yeah. I mean, it's like being like the county comptroller, like, or something like that.
Yeah. So there's a lot here. I think it's like, whenever we come to something like this, my first question is always like, well, what have they been doing all this time? And now we know a little bit about what they've been doing, but also like, what are other places doing? And can we do what other places are doing successfully? So this is something worth tracking. And I want to be on their next Zoom town hall and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would assume that any type of Zoom in that sense would be probably amazing, like
Hmm.
just for what's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
even just to sit
I don't know if
in.
that just the. I'm thinking like feedback from the community section
Hmm.
of the meeting will probably be like the top draw for
Yeah.
I mean just for how funny it could be. I mean not funny, but like just like
You
how
never
crazy.
know who's going to show up.
Yeah, I mean like it's one of the like people usually don't a Zoom meeting like you can just like click a link and show up. Like some people like want to go to that if it was in person because they got to go to a building and they got to walk there or drive there. So I mean, at least they're having meetings. I mean, maybe there's more data there that like if they don't have a lot of data on their website, maybe they have numbers from the meeting that could be helpful.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of Monday's meeting and they were doing some PowerPoints, but it wasn't boring. Like the speakers, one of them was this guy, the executive director, Hans, who's leaving. He spoke. The lead organizer of NACOL, I forget what exactly the acronym stands for, but it's basically like the National Organization for Police Oversight. She was on there talking about like how she started out doing this in New Orleans and she very much supports this. And she was kind of like there as our little cheerleader. She made a
Mm-hmm.
really cool point that she was like, once we started introducing body cameras to police officers, the number of police initiated shootings plummeted to zero because they knew that we were watching. And so
Imagine
they,
that.
yes, I mean, I was just listening to a WHYY podcast today where they were talking about the police gun violence issue, and how they're trying to get it a little bit more into the like Philadelphia Constitution about that, because apparently like we can't put up signs that say that this is a gun-free zone, which to me, I always think that like signs, even if they don't mean anything, I think signs make such a difference. Like if you put a sign up that said gun free zone, no guns allowed, I wouldn't know that you can't enforce that. I'd be like, oh shucks, can't bring my gun here. I'm not gonna like look into it.
Yeah,
So
man. Well,
um
I guess I want to go back to the body cam thing for a
yeah,
second.
yeah.
So, and they'll always so like the body cam things are very important because that's a level of accountability like in your in your job. So like most people at work, from like a McDonald's worker all the way up to like a corporate executive, when they go to their building at work, they're usually on like surveillance camera.
Mhm.
Like so, and that's kind of cell phones have kind of filled in the blanks here in the last few years with some of these horrific videos coming out. But like you're not gonna like steal from work if you know you're on camera, and if you do steal from work, you're gonna get fired. So like
Mhm.
if you're gonna do something bad at work, like you're gonna be held accountable for it, and like the police officers are at work. So the body cam like should be on while you're working, and they always come up with these ideas like, oh, like what happens if I'm in like like a compromising personal moment, like essentially in the bathroom. It's like one of the lines that they use, like, is the body cam going to be recording me? And it's like, oh, like I get that. Like it's a pretty much like a webcam strapped to the front of them. Like you can switch it off. They have kill switches.
Yeah.
Like the footage, is recorded on like SD cards, or I mean the really nice ones I think like upload like via like cellular,
Mhm.
and people can like clip out the video and stuff. So like if your body cam was switched on in the bathroom, they would just immediately skip over that.
Right.
So like and like they would only use it for investigative purposes. Like I don't like obviously I kind of deal a little bit with surveillance videos sometimes because like not like like it's not my department, but like I get asked questions about it. And like when like you're looking like say like someone got in a fight and they want to like pull the footage like to see if it happened. Like other people in the area would be like, "Oh, I saw that happen at this time." Like, and then they go to that time and look for it. They want to be like sitting there like watching the footage the whole time. Like you want to sit there and watch 8 hour shift of like body cam footage. Like first off, who wants to watch it? Second off, to store all that video like on a server somewhere is a lot of money and a lot of space. Like 8 hours of body cam footage, that's like a couple gigs of data at least. Like if you like a 2 hour movie in 4K is like 3 or 4 gigs. Like what do you think like 8 hours of like 720p like body cam footage are? It's probably like around 6 to 8 gigs of data, and that'll fill up a server in like a month. So
yeah, there's some information from a Philly Tribune article that says that right now 2,878 officers are equipped with body cams. The goal is that by the end of 2021, 4,539 officers will have the body cams. It was delayed, quote unquote, due to COVID. But Commissioner Outlaw could amend that schedule if the department needs to address other emerging needs or if they hit roadblocks with other projects. So that seems like super vague. But they're
trying to pull that money as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you don't know what could happen.
They need to buy a missile launcher.
Oh, so they're saying it's going to be the total cost would be nearly $5 million to get over 4,500 officers to have the body cams. And then it's roughly $3.4 million a year for data storage and maintenance. So that's more than the current PAC gets a year.
Not bad prices for that.
Oh.
I mean, I'd have to dig into it a little bit, but like, I mean, I'm sure, like just knowing what I know in IT, like footage like that is usually stored like between like 60 and 90 days.
Okay.
Oh, unless like some sort of like investigation is like brought like forward within that time frame. I mean, you have to eventually get rid of the video because of how much it takes up. You can't keep it forever.
Right.
Or, that $3-something million will go to like $6 million, like very quickly.
That's another really good point about the staff for the oversight committee, because they say the goal is that you're supposed to process a complaint within 90 days, but the committee at the moment, which this was when they had 10 people on the committee, it could take them 8 months to process one complaint because of the lack of resources and funding. And so if that's the case and that body cam image isn't being stored long enough, and then by the time they get to this complaint, it's too late. They've lost a resource. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it works from a storage perspective. Like you can't keep it forever, so those processes are usually 60 to 90 days. If nothing comes of it, then it just kind of gets like you just rewind the tape and start over.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was like reading about the PAC and like the oversight committee, and I'm like, that sounds cool. Like, I think I would want to like sit in on that and like see a day in the life. But I think at the same time, I would get so frustrated with all the roadblocks. I'm the kind of person, I need my resources to be able to do my job.
Yeah, it doesn't look too designed to help them get anything done with it.
Yeah. So guys, vote yes.
Yeah, vote yes.
So Paul, speaking of helping, how are you being neighborly these days?
Um, well, I mean, I have one really good example in the last couple weeks that I'll just throw out there right away. So we live like by one of the city parks in down here in South Philly, and that city park has like one of the like community buildings in the center. So they're using that as one of the I guess student resource centers, and it's pretty much set up that like if parents can't have their kids like virtual learn at their house, whether it's they have to go to work or like they don't have like a viable internet connection or something like that, they can then drop their kids off at one of these resource centers, and the kids are pretty much like in a small classroom for the day virtual learning.
Yeah.
So I guess this was like a shower idea one day. I'm like getting ready to go to work, and I was like sitting there racking my brain about like, man, what can I do to like help this like this not community center, student resource center, because like I've been talking to the guys that run it for like a couple of years now. Like they do summer camps and like they have like classes and like stuff for the kids in the community. So like a couple of years ago, whenever they asked them like what to help out. So we've been getting like like Christmas donations, like buying them like just like sports balls off Amazon, like footballs, baseballs, like throw around just so they can be kids and have fun. Like, like I go over there and I was like, what can I like do for you guys to like help out the student resource center? And they're like, I was like, do they need supplies? Do they need like, like pens, pads, papers, like whatever? And they're like, no, they should be good on that. Like we have plenty. And I was like, do they need like snacks or like waters or whatever? And they're like, yeah, like you could like, bring over like some kids snacks, like for them. Like they could always use that, just like, because of COVID times, just make sure they're like individually wrapped. And it's like, all right, cool. So, Ashley, my girlfriend, like I tell her the idea and she like texts the whole like neighborhood chat that we have going about like, we're going to like try and get some like donations together, like to buy all the kids like snacks for the student center. So they all started Venmoing her like money, and we raised like $250 in like a day and a half or something like that.
Oh my God.
From like the block right out here. Yeah. And we went to BJ's and just bought like, I don't know, a boatload of like, you name it, like goldfish, chips, like granola bars. Like we tried to keep it on like the healthier side. Like we didn't really try and get like super sugary drinks. Like I guess they made like Honest makes like a juice box and it's like not as sugary or something like that. Like, but we still got them like some candies and cookies and stuff. They still are. Come on, they're still kids.
Yeah.
So like we just like brought all that stuff over one day, and that's like, yeah, that was pretty much that. And like, that's just sitting there getting ready for work one day, like thinking about like how I can like, help the kids over there, like, or help the student resource center.
That is so like, awesome.
Yeah, but it was like a collective effort. So like it from like everyone on our block. So in that sense, like it's like, I mean, it's not all about me. It's like way bigger, it's like way bigger than that.
Yeah. It always feels good to do good, and I love that like you spread it to the block, and now everybody can, say that they helped out and made a difference, and it affects like it's so close to you, which I think is even better. It's great when you can see something that somebody that you're helping.
I mean, it like just being it brings a smile to my face when I see it. Like last summer when I saw the kids like throwing the football around, that like I just went and gave the community center, like like that makes you happy because like they're happy. And if it's in your community like that, like if this is your community, like you need to like try and help positively. I mean, what really started this relationship was like a shitty Facebook group complaining about those guys. And I was like, I can't believe these guys are like this, like from this Facebook group. Like, I'm going to go talk to them myself. And then like, wow, look at that. We actually built a relationship together on common ground. And then like, we started like working together to like help better our community and not sitting there talking on Facebook about our community. So like, you know, I just like to put that out there that that's how you actually do it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Paul. I love that. I think that I believe 100% we just have to talk to each other. You have to get the story straight from the source and just always ask your neighbors, like, what can I do to help? Like, nobody's doing bad things because they want to be a bad person, or nobody ever wants to be perceived as a bad person, even if they don't know that they're like being viewed that way. So I think that's really awesome that you just like went over there and you're like, I'm gonna get the story for myself and I'm gonna help. And one of my previous guests, Brian, he made a really good point. He's I forget the name of like the like mantra or whatever, but it's basically like, once you have food, water, and a home, once you have that established for yourself, then you can give back to the people around you, which is super important because you never know what the people around you have, and you just have to ask, what do you need?
Yeah, but I mean, pretty much like that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. By the way.
You do know it. Oh my God. Yeah. That is awesome. I know some really smart people.
Yeah, the top of it's fulfillment, and that's when you know, like the bottom's like food security, and then it's like housing, and then it's like education, I think, and then it's like fulfillment. Or
I'll take your word for it. I don't know. That's awesome. Well, citizens, please share what you think it means to be neighborly in your area. You can email me thisjess@gmail.com. I don't think as many people believe in email these days, so you can find me on Instagram, THISJES. You can like send me pictures of your neighborly activities. We do this video chat that I post it all on the YouTube, so I can always share it on the YouTube. Please share this podcast with your friends all over the country so they can learn about the positions, history lessons, current happenings, and maybe be inspired to start their own informative podcasts. Oh, you know what you can send to the Instagram? Like, send your coolest skateboarding tricks. No, don't send those.
I'm like semi-retired.
I have a question, Paul. Like, do skateboarders try to keep their cool locations almost like on the down low? Like, do you only tell like your closest skateboarding friends the best places to skate?
Well, there's two times. There's pre-internet and then there's internet times. So pre-internet, yeah, it was like people had like notebooks, people had like secret locations, like, you know, it was like real like clicky in that sense. So like, the rival skateboard crew from down across town showed up at the spot. Not like, I mean, I'm making it, but like now, like in the days of like Instagram and the internet and stuff like that, there's like websites dedicated to it. Like for example, like a couple of years we went to Barcelona, and Barcelona's like been top 5 skateboard city for the last 25 years. It's usually like 1 or 2.
Wow.
And all I had to do was go on Instagram and I could find everything. Like I just would like go on Instagram, like the locals that I kind of were familiar with would like tell me about people, and like people just like tag the location on Instagram, and then all of a sudden you're like showing up there. So like it's super easy now. Like, I mean, like, oh, these kids these days have it so easy. Like, yeah, that's just pre-internet and internet. So
nice. Your age is showing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, this has been your friend Jess. Paul, thank you so much for talking about question number 3 on the Pennsylvania ballot. Do you know my little catchphrase to lead us out, Paul?
Go ahead and hit me with it, Jess.
I'll see you around the neighborhood.